Good evening and welcome to a very wet Philiphaugh for the last match in the Border League for this season before the final takes place. Hawick are already through to that final after a Pool A win over Jed Forest. Peebles and Gala both withdrawing from the competition. And so it's Selkirk versus Kelso in Pool B. Selkirk lost to Melrose. Kelso beat Melrose, so a win for Kelso tonight will see them progress. A win for Selkirk, though, and it will be holders Melrose who reach the final. Well, commentary from Dale Clancy, Robin Purdie and Kelly Mitchell coming up after we've heard from both camps.
As you know, the injuries have been a big problem. There's been people put in positions that on the pitch that they aren't used to, and credit to them, credit to the young boys that have stepped up as well. And yeah, like you say, we've managed to secure the Premiership, so no, we just need to look forward to next year now and rebuild a wee bit.
Now, looking at the side on paper today, it's about as strong as you're going to get.
Yeah, I mean, Luke Petty's away in Italy, so he'll be a bit of a miss. Our scrum actually went really well last Saturday with him playing, but Bruce Riddle's just as good in the scrum, and it's good to see Matty Francis coming in at hooker as well. Good opportunity for him.
Well, Bruce, 14 years since Kelso have been in the Border League final. A real chance to achieve that tonight.
Yeah, there is. There certainly is, and it's nice to have a goal at the end of a game, but certainly it'll be another year in the making if we don't focus on tonight, because you certainly cannot come to Philiphaugh and underestimate Selkirk. If we start looking towards the final, we won't be there, because you don't forget how to play Selkirk, and if you do, you just don't get to finals unless you turn up in the semi-final. And that's what we're looking to do tonight.
Well, looking at the weather, it's absolutely lashing down with rain. It's a very heavy pitch out there. It's going to be a forwards battle, and that's going to be relished by both packs, I would think.
Yeah, it's going to be a good Border derby, isn't it, Stuart? I don't think I've came here on a nice day, to be fair. So it's nothing out of the ordinary. Listen, we train in it, we play in it week in, week out, so it's no biggie.
It's been tough. I've been playing in different positions, but there's also some positives out of that, as I've got used to playing for different positions and still not figured out where I'd like to play. But when you're playing 12 and 13 and 15, it gives you different perspectives of the game.
And so what about tonight? Because although Selkirk can't go through to the final, you can certainly have a big say in who does, and a Kelso win will mean they go through. But you can help Melrose today. Have they been on the phone to you, have they?
No, they've not. I don't know, it's a tough one. If there's a kick at the end of the game for Melrose to go through, I'm not sure what we'll do, but no, it is what it is. It's a game where we can't go through, but it's still something positive to take out of it. If we manage to get the win, it goes into 7 with a little bit of confidence as well. And
of course a Border derby, which you love.
Definitely. And it's the first time we're playing on a Friday night this year at home, believe it or not. The game through at Jed, there's just something different about playing on a Friday night. It maybe brings down a bigger crowd as well, that the floodlights on. It tends to bring a bit of a good atmosphere.
I've always thought it's a really worthwhile league. Even when I was at Hawick, we always thought very highly of it. And if you were in a very congested, few weeks, few months, you used it and you had your lesser players, your younger players, and you used it as a development game, and it's always been like that. Potentially you play a few more pre-season. Nobody likes playing friendlies, let's be honest, so we could potentially play a few more in the pre-season, and they mean something, sort of thing, and you get something out of it. So yeah, it means a lot to me, and it means a lot to Kelso Rugby Club, and I'm sure it does all the other Border teams. It's just one of these years, Stuart, that the weather and COVID and whatnot, still try to find our feet from COVID, sort of thing. So hopefully next season we'll be back on track, and clubs and players really buy into it.
Yes, welcome along to Philiphaugh for some Friday night lights as the rain batters down over the pitch this evening, and it is a big game for Kelso, the visitors, who are looking to try and make it into the Border League final to take on Hawick, but they've got a very strong Selkirk team to try and defeat, who are looking to try and end their 15th season on a bit of a high. The home side, they start with Callum Anderson at fly half, and he's got a good centre pairing with Ross Nixon and Ben Pickles in the centre. Philiphaugh in the front row will be looking to try and continue his try-scoring exploits after his try against GHA last week in their final game in the Premiership action. Also in the back row, James Bett packs down at blindside flanker away from his usual position at hooker. However, he'll be very industrious in open play. The visitors, they've got the very promising Dwayne Patterson at outside centre, who's going to be partnered with very robust and direct Frankie Robson. And in the forwards, Bruce McNeil, a very experienced campaigner who's probably left his wellies at home this evening, but he's going to be at number 8 and hoping to guide his team over the line and into the Border League final. play getting underway here. Dwayne Patterson with a right-footed kick into this drizzly and dreek sky here, and it's been a knock on, and it ends up in the hands of Keith Melbourne, the big Irish second row, getting his hands on the ball early on in this fixture. Andy Tate rushing to the ruck to try and get the tempo high earlier on for Kelso as they start with purpose and certainly with a goal in their sights. Andy Tate now putting boot to ball, looking to try and make this a foot race, and there's Selkirk coming to scamper back to try and cover this, and it's been almost taken over the line, and it's going to be interesting here.
So we'll go with it. Good.
Oh, and that is an excellent start for Kelso. A little bit of a conversation between Brian McGuff, the assistant referee, and Sean Niven, who's the man in the middle this evening, but the assistant referee happy that he got that grounded, and Robin Purdie, who's alongside me. That is an excellent start for Kelso.
That's as fast a start as you're likely to see in any game, Dale, and I was just about to say, using the conditions, what a great early kick it was from Andy Tate. He's seen the space, the ball's going to zip about on this surface, and yeah, he's used that to his advantage as early in the piece as you can possibly get.
Just as we watch the extras getting added there, they've just bounced off the post from Dwayne Patterson. Play back underway here, and it's Bruce McNeil plucking it from the sky. I wonder if he's happy with the conditions underfoot here this evening. And Kelso looking to try and set up a platform, and they've won the penalty. The referee Sean Niven just seen a little infringement round the ruck, and Kelso looking to try and play some rugby here, keeping the offload on. Now it's Bruce McNeil now charging on, just thwarting an effort there. Now big Keith Melbourne, he can certainly go, chucks the ball out the back door, and Archie Cowens is there looking to scoop up, but has just drifted forward in the pass. It's going to be a scrum down. There's going to be a put into the scrum for Selkirk, but certainly Kelso looking to play some rugby in these slippery conditions.
They certainly were. Those two behemoths in that Kelso pack, Bruce McNeil and Keith Melbourne, who I've been very impressed with on the occasions I've seen him this season, looking to play a bit of stuff early on in these awful conditions.
Scott Clark in his more comfortable position of 9. He's been playing a bit at 10 this season, and he's currently the top point scorer for Selkirk in the Premiership in a campaign which really didn't come to much. Only 3 wins out of 18 games, which is a poor return for the Philiphaugh side. But James Bett, who's been one of the shining lights for the home side this season, sets up the platform for now Callum Anderson to try and kick into some space, but it's been well covered in the backfield. Now returned back to Selkirk, and there's a bit of space there. And this back 3 for Selkirk is a bit inexperienced, and Sam Coburn, one of the fresher faced youngsters in the starting lineup, takes the ball into contact there. James Bett now at the back, now in the hands of a more experienced head of Ross Nixon as he's brought down to ground. And I don't think these white shirts of Selkirk will stay white for long. And now James Bett yet again finding himself in the loose. He's been met with some good resistance there as Archie Cowens looks to try and get his hands on the ball. Equally as comfortable in the back row, but certainly gives him a jackal in the second row. Now Dwayne Patterson under the high ball, looking to try and kick downfield, and there's a lot of space back there, and it was from a loose kick that Kelso got their opening try, but Anderson's having to track back into his own 22 and kick back downfield. That is covered again by Dwayne Patterson, and he's looking to just run it back in hand now, looking to try and twist and weave his way out in between the Selkirk defence, but not on this occasion. Has been presented well for Andy Tate, ex-Berwick. He's been at Poynter Park for quite a while now, the captain this evening. Now Murray Hastie looking to try and use these spaces, and there's an obvious tactic here from Kelso looking to try and kick, but Callum McNeil escapes the clutches, and a great offload back inside. Ben Pickles has got space to run into. There's some current defence here for Kelso, but he's just managed to go on the inside of Mark Wilson. Is he going to be able to go the way? This would be an excellent try if he's able to, and he's got 2 Kelso players there covering the field well, but Ben Pickles making some good inroads there on the Kelso defence. And it looks like the penalty is going to come back on a Kelso side, but Ben Pickles showing why the Super 6 teams are perhaps keeping a keen eye on him this season. It's certainly both teams I think are quite ignorant of the rain which is battering down on us. As Bruce Riddle tries to set up a more steady platform, just tucking the ball underneath. Looks like it's going to be a penalty to Selkirk for offside.
And yeah, you'd mentioned about Pickles there. Yeah, he does indeed look a prospect. He sort of run out of support there a bit, and I thought there was a bit of a cynical foul which did result in a penalty, but I thought it could have maybe resulted in more against the Kelso player in that incident.
I think that the only really only really had one option, I think, there. Ben Pickles, it was one of those real broken play runs. The attack of Kelso was really at the, had a lot of go forward. So when the counter-attack came, it was really, really disjointed, and I think it was fortunate that there were two covering players over on that far side, because Pickles, he can certainly run. And I think he's perhaps going to be withdrawn for an injury, which is very unfortunate, but it's going to be a debut for Cameron Eason, who's perhaps coming off the bench a little bit earlier than expected, and it's going to be a baptism of fire for the youngster. But this is what these games are perhaps about. He's been involved in a lot of representative stuff in the region as well, so he's a promising player, and he's got a long time to try and stamp his authority and put his hand up for next season, certainly here at Philiphaugh, as Selkirk will look to try and have a better season in the Premiership. Now Clark rolling the ball into the scrum, and it's been met with a lot of resistance there from Kelso as they get a little shunt on, but the ever trusted Ewan McDougall at the tail picks up and carries the ball. And now Clark finding McClyment round the corner. He's been met with Cowans, he can't evade the clutches of the second row, and Clark going with the momentum and bringing Matthew Francis into play as he makes his way from the scrum, but the ball's not well protected there by Selkirk, and it looks like it's going to come back on a Kelso side. They kick downfield, and that's a chance wasted for Selkirk, but good defence from Kelso.
Yeah, good defence, and it was a good carry initially from McDougall. He's a warrior, he's a talisman for this Selkirk outfit, and that's what he gives you. He gives you go forward ball. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a good battle between the two eights tonight, experienced campaigners McNeil and McDougall.
Yeah, it's a clash of the titans. Both have had Scotland club representative honours. Both have, and Bruce has represented many a club. He's if you look at his kit drawer anyway, I'm sure he's got a few club jerseys in there. There's a throw into the line out. Scott McClyment picks that up. And it's now at the hands of Anderson. Anderson splits the defence. He does find a runner there, and it is James Bett. He breaks the clutches there. Are Selkirk over the line? It looks like they get over, but the referee is going to bring that back for a forward pass from the offload from Bett. But he's a player I have been really, really impressed with, and I've seen he was starting it in the back row last week, but he plays like a back row, and it does mean that you can accommodate a different hooker in there, especially if you've got short of options and injuries. But Bett is really vital to everything that Selkirk do. Yeah,
as you said earlier, he's been one of their key men this season, and he was very impressive in the defeat when we seen them recently against Melrose. And as you say, it's interesting to see him in the back row, and he certainly doesn't look out of place thus far in this game.
Andy Tate now to put the ball into the scrum, and it's collapsed on the side closest to us here. And Sean Niven just going to be setting his stall out yet again.
Height up, okay. Shoulders are below the hips, both of you. Keep that height up, we're more stable. Let's go. I've got an AI that's going to watch that side. I've got this side.
Very firm there from Sean Niven. It's always good to see the referee stamp his authority, but it's going to be challenging conditions for the referee, Kelly, when the underfoot is so slippy.
Yeah, I mean, tonight you really need in the front row to have their feet underneath them as well, because it's so easy just for their feet to give way, which is what happened there, which is why he's resetting it. This is much better.
You can see that it's a more fruitful scrum there for Kelso. They get a bit of go forward as well, as I think they look to try and win the penalty. That's exactly what they do. They get the penalty from the scrum. It'll give them a platform to kick downfield, and
number 3,
Kelso, the game's about 15 minutes old, and Kelso have not really attacked apart from the opening exchanges, which was a sloppy play from Selkirk, but this gives them a little bit of more of a platform to try and go from.
Yeah, they'll be looking to establish a bit more territory than they've had. The scrums that there's been, they do look to be dominant at this stage of the game, certainly, and that'll be something they're going to look to use to their advantage as the game wears on.
You guys on the 10, please.
The likes of Ryan Toogood, he's really settled in at Kelso, and he gives them a good platform, a good steady source in the scrum. He's partnered alongside Charlie Marshall now in frame this evening, but in behind that they're blessed with some big players, none other than big Keith Melbourne, who's just plucked that out of the sky. Didn't have to reach too high, the big man, but it's came to a maul as Kelso aren't able to really get any go forward, and Billy McNeil looks to try and weave his way closer towards that Selkirk line. He's still in between the 10 metre and the 22, but again, big Melbourne looking to truck it up, and he's going to be a big player to try and stop as it trundles back from the box kick, and it's been met with a boot back downfield by Scott Clark, who's got a terrific boot on him, and Bruce McNeil's not hanging about, passes the ball to Roberts. Roberts finds what looks like Mark Wilson, and it's now in the hands of Riddle. Riddle with the ball in hand looks to just take on McNeil, and that's a great collision there as the Selkirk players bundle in. I think Clark distributes the ball to the runners there. The Kelso players fill in as well, looking to try and fight on the floor, but Anderson finding McNeil. Now to Nixon. Over to Eason, and he spills an excellent pass there to Sam Coburn, who's found a little bit of space in behind the defence. The chase is now on, but steady play from Selkirk, and I think the addition of Cameron Eason, it looks a pretty good one for Selkirk. He looked very assured there as he got the ball through the hands quickly into the space.
Yeah, he settled into the game, the youngster, fair play to him. But you do love to see a prop get up ahead of steam, and there was no quarter asked and absolutely none given there when Bruce Riddle went headlong into Bruce McNeil.
I bet he's not that quick when you're asking him to do housework, is he, Kelly?
Oh, I'm saying nothing.
I think you're best. I think you're best.
It was a good collision, though. It was really good to see. That's what you're wanting from a border derby.
Definitely. I think it showed that there's still a bit of bite and a bit of want in this game. Selkirk not got a lot to play for. They're already out of contention for the final of the Border League, but it does show how much it means to the home side that they put in a good performance to end their 15th season. The players like Bruce Riddle might be maybe put in a hibernation until the 7th season's done, but it's Bruce McNeil from the line out, looking to charge up and make some good inroads, which he does. And now Murray Hastie putting boot to ball, looking to really test these Selkirk backs. It's McNeil who looks to mark that. He took a good receive there, managed to pluck the ball out under a bit of pressure there from Roberts. He twisted and weaved out of trouble there, but he did call the mark, kicks the ball, and Patterson's on him quickly, but he does manage to get the kick downfield, and it's a great kick there, and I don't think Mark Wilson's looking to take this one quickly, but great play from Cal McNeil. And they hit their target there, Archie Cowans, and then pops it down into the breadbasket of Bruce McNeil, and then Frankie Robson just making a head of steam, taking 3 or 4 Selkirk players with him along the way. And Andy Tate now distributing again to Archie Cowans, the man who received the line out, recycles himself well. Now Andy Tate coming against the grain, finds a little bit of space in behind, and Kelso looking to try and pin Selkirk back. Throw into the line out, and it's scrappy there, and I think it's going to come back on a Kelso side from the celebrations there from Bruce McNeil. And it does show how much it means to players like Bruce McNeil. We do talk about him a lot because he is a character of the game, but he finds himself at Kelso. Kelso have got a chance to make it to a Border League final. It shows how much this competition still means to players.
Oh, definitely. I mean, what's he not done in the club game in these parts, and yet here he is at 30 odd years of age, Friday night, teaming with rain, still putting in an absolute shift, and all credit to him. I think the future does look bright for Selkirk. A couple of their under-18s players announced in the wider Scotland under-18 training squad, so they'll be looking to see what comes from them in the years to come.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good border representation in the district and national action, but Kelso, with matters in hand, looking to get a head of steam here up front. And I think they win the penalty. I know they win the penalty. You can see it signalled there from the referee, Sean Niven. Just signalling there that Shafagjak was pulling that scrum to the ground. Dwayne Patterson's a little bit further back. The scrum was a bit further. Is it from where the penalty was given, even if the scrum goes forward, or is that a kicker's choice there, Kelly?
It's a kicker's choice, so you can't go further forward than the mark, but you can kind of come a bit further back. But also, if the penalty's at a scrum, you have to take it from where the number 8 was,
right,
as well, which is why you see in the internationals them bringing it back quite a lot, because the scrum halves try and take it about halfway up the scrum. It has to be at the number 8.
It's going to be Patterson now to try and make advantage of the penalty from the scrum. A little bit cleaner than his previous effort. That takes the score is Selkirk 0, Kelso 10. It's going to be Callum Anderson to get play back underway. The left-footed kicker, putting it just down the throat of Bruce McNeil. He evades the first attempt and almost the second, but he's wrapped up eventually as the Selkirk players bundle in and win the penalty. And they managed to benefit there from some inaccuracy at the ruck there from Charlie Marshall. There's going to be a penalty to Selkirk, and they know if they want to try and ruin Kelso's party, they're going to have to start scoring some tries. Francis finds McClymont. McClymont's still in there, but he's been met with a lot of Kelso bodies. Perhaps here a little bit swiftly, but the referee happy with things. And the ball's going to come back on a Selkirk side as they look to try and go for a more pragmatic approach and pick and go round the fringes. Get closer towards the sticks, but they've been driven back by very stubborn and resistive Kelso defence, who've just encroached the offside line there. It's a free ball for Selkirk to play with, and now Anderson looks to go around the outside. He's thrown the dummy, he's now got the offload in, but just can't go to hand. He perhaps was just met with far too many options there. The option was right to perhaps dummy, but perhaps when he threw that dummy it was there to release, but the talented fly half, just maybe too many options there on that occasion. McClymont from the previous line-out was met with a lot of bodies very quickly, and they do huddle round, perhaps a little bit slower than before, and that maul looks like it's pretty well set. And the referee got the advantage coming now as well, so we might see some action from his previous warning.
If you can get the ball, you've got a penalty advantage. If you can't get it, tell me.
Good communication there as Scott Clark is told exactly what his options are from the referee. And Selkirk look to try and pick and go round the corner. And they go again, looking to get closer towards this line. And the bundle of bodies start to disperse from the contact zone, and the free ball is still there for Selkirk if they want to try and play some rugby. And there's McClymont, it goes through the legs. Melbourne with the boot to ball, but it is going to come back for a penalty. And now Selkirk with the ball, looking to try and encroach this resistive Kelso defence. It has been very impressive so far, and Selkirk look to try and get the ball into the hands of the right men to try and pick the lock of this Kelso defence. They go closer towards that line. Are they over it? Niven's got a good look at that. He's not blown his whistle just yet, but signalling has been held up, and Selkirk unsuccessful on that occasion. He perhaps has noticed another infringement there from Kelso, and the penalties are totting up.
Oh, the card is out.
And the card is out. And we're going to have to see who's trudging off the field. Is that Alan Frame perhaps coming off the field of play, who's been yellow carded? Kelso having to make a little change in the front row, with Bruce McNeil stepping up back to his Border Reivers days, packing down in the front row. So they've got that covered, so it's a 7-men scrum from Kelso against the 8 men from Selkirk. The shunt is now on. They're making the weight, and the bodies count. It starts to pop up slightly, but it's got good go forward there. The ball spills out, and the referee is going straight underneath the sticks. Penalty try. No doubt in his mind that a try was coming, and Kelso were under pressure, so Selkirk reply with a penalty try. So it's Selkirk 7, Kelso 10. As Dwayne Patterson gets play back underway, and it's went underneath Turnbull, who manages to grab that. With Callum Turnbull and Clark finding Anderson, and he kicks downfield, but backfield is covered well there by Wilson, who clutches that in dangerous conditions and looks to go on his own. He evades the first challenge there from Sam Coburn. The swinging gate of a tackle there. And now Bruce McNeil again, another offload to Cowans. Cowans finds Patterson. Patterson getting the ball through the hands. He finds the other McNeil. It's Billy this time. And Kelso hit the advantage there. It's now in the hands of McNeil, who distributes well again. Marshall getting his hands to it, and it eventually finds its way to Frankie Robson, who in typical clutchy conditions can't really get ahead of steam, and he's wrapped up at quite a pedestrian pace. But Patterson now putting boot to ball and trying to make a fist of it. Errors almost came to Wilson there. Yeah, there's been a lot of kicking, a lot of errors, a lot of penalties, but looking at the conditions, it's what we expect in these games. And it's a successful line out yet again for Kelso, as that players join them all and try and squeak this forward. And it's very difficult to try and differentiate between who's on what side, as the mud just spoils the shirts of the players on the field. As Tate just grubber passes the loose ball back. It's now in the hands of Patterson, who's found Robson, who's a very robust runner. It's now looking to go through the hands of the Kelso backs as Angus Roberts finds some open field, but he's got a tough job trying to get round McNeil, who's a very dogged and tenacious defender. But the referee finally it blows half time, and perhaps it came at a good time. It is Selkirk 7, Kelso 10. It's been an interesting first half. Started well by Kelso, who got that opportunistic try. Selkirk managed to get that penalty try after relentless pressure, but it's not been a classic, but it's certainly been an interesting battle between these two teams. There's going to be errors, there's going to be spilt balls, penalties, contentious decisions, but you get that on a dry day in a Borders derby, never mind a clatchy day here at Philiphaugh. But at half time here, Selkirk just trail the team hoping to try and make it to the Border League final. It is Selkirk 7, Kelso 10. So Sean Niven gets played back underway, and Callum Anderson kicks downfield. And it's a offload there from Kelso as they look to try and evade the challenges from Selkirk and make their way out of their own 22. They managed to do just that. And Andy Tate now over the ball. The box kick downfield. Very little wind to speak of here at Philiphaugh, but it is very, very damp underfoot as the ball's kicked downfield from Anderson again. Wilson lets that bounce, but he's not got a lot of pressure on him at this moment, and he kicks downfield. And it's going to be Clark, it's going to be Coburn underneath that. He's got Clark in support. And Coburn putting boot to ball. He's been met with a challenge, but very fair there from Wilson. And now it's Bruce McNeil, who's got plenty of room to get ahead of steam. And he looks to go round the outside a bit. He manages that. He evades the first challenge as well from Coburn. Couple of missed tackles there for the fullback, but it's going to be a penalty to Selkirk. Straight off their feet. They look to go quick. I don't know what the referee's pulling that one back for, because it looked fine for me. But Scott Clark is going to get the chance to kick downfield. Looks like he's recently had a strapping on his left leg as well at half time. Put the right footed kick downfield, and it looks like it's going to be a case of deja vu. The second half looks like it's going to continue the similar trend of the first.
Yeah, more of the same, and not the sight you want to see at the start of the second half if you're an opposing Selkirk player, and that is Bruce McNeil coming at you full charge on the hoof.
Yeah, I think he caught everybody off guard there with the little sidestep off the left. I think James Bett is probably thinking, did that just happen? But he made a good head of steam, beating the challenge as well. But the throw into the line out, Scott McClymont doing well there. He's been wrapped up by Melbourne, but the ball does come back on the Selkirk side. And now Anderson, he finds Ewan McDougall, and again he's looking to try and make inroads there, but all the big players, you can see Frame back on the field of play. All the Kelso players filter in there to hold Ewan McDougall up.
It's going forward, it's still going.
And Sean Niven saying that there's still a little bit of momentum in this ball. It goes to ground. Can Selkirk get this ball back? No. The referee says it's going to be a put into the scrum to Kelso. A successful scrum on this occasion. Andy Tate pops it in, but the two front rows look like they've separated. And both front rows coming up, and this is where it is challenging, Kelly, for the referees to, get a bit of continuity in the game. It's difficult because it's wet underfoot, but this is where it's challenging for a referee.
Yeah, especially as we're focusing on the scrums as well. If they go too low, the feet slide. If they go too high, they're popping up, which is what we've just seen. So it is just trying to be perfectly honest. All the forwards are wanting is ball in, ball out as quick as possible, and that's what the referee's looking for as well. Selkirk got a bit of a push on there, but the ground's just not giving anything for either team.
I think back in the day you'd have a gentleman's agreement, wouldn't you? Just lean, don't push. But it's going to be a free kick here, and Bruce McNeil puts the ball on the ground and puts his boot to it and taps it quickly, or as quickly as he can, but he's ushered down to ground. And Andy Tate now, he finds a willing runner off the side, and now Cowans, the open try scorer in this game, finds his way around the corner and tries to make a head of steam and tries to burst his way in between the two Selkirk defenders, but that route was well and truly closed. And Tate now putting boot to ball. It's almost been defended there by Selkirk, but it's went loose.
That's a push. We'll come back to the original penalty.
There's going to be a penalty there.
The tackle needs to roll before you jackal.
As Marshall preps himself to throw into this line out, he has found Cowans, and he then sets up. And the maul is very, very unorthodox, to say the least. and Tate having to dig about in there, but the balls came back to him. He finds Hasty, who's got Frankie Robson there, and now Tweedy working hard off his wing to try and create that overlap, but all he's done is run into traffic, and Selkirk successfully able to overturn that ball on the ground, and I think that was Anderson who managed to get himself in the right position there, the drift defence working. It's picked up at the back there by Shafag Jacques, who manages to sweep up that loose ball. He'll be on his travels during the week to take on Belgium for representing Poland. And now with the ball in hand, Selkirk look to try and unpick this Kelso defence, which has been very robust so far. Just the penalty try. Now Riddle takes the ball forward for Selkirk as they slowly but surely start to eat into this Kelso territory. This is probably the furthest up the field they've been in the second half. With Clark, he's found Francis. He's been met on the ground, not supporting the body weight there, but I think Clark's took a sore one there and he twists out of the contact. Looks like he twisted his ankle.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what he did. That's the conditions there. Well, he's up and he looks not too bad, but momentarily that looked like it could have been a bad one.
The left-footed kicker is perhaps a comfortable position for him in challenging conditions. Makes a good connection with it, and they're happy with that as well as the cheer goes up in the stand, and Callum Anderson gets his first successful kick of the evening. It's now all square. Selkirk 10, Kelso 10, and that wouldn't be enough to take Kelso through. They would get 2 points for the draw, 1 for the losing bonus, but they trail Melrose in points advantage, so this makes the final standings in the Border League in this pool very interesting. Obviously the other pool done and dusted now with Hawick in the final, and rightfully so. They've been the form team in the Borders this season, but it'll be a Border League final all to play for. Form goes out the window, and Kelso will be hoping that they can get in that final as Selkirk look to play out of their own 22.
Use 9. No.
Scott Clark told to use the ball, kicks downfield, again a big kick from the scrum half, straight down the throat of Bruce McNeil as he looks to go one way then the other. He's been met well there by Cal McNeil, and just bites round the ankles. Certainly wasn't going to try and challenge Bruce McNeil high. And now Cowans, who's been very, very industrious in this game. You can tell by the amount of mud he's carrying round the park now on his scrum cap, his knees, his shirt. As Kelso again look to go side to side and try and restrict the Selkirk defence and try and suck them into the close quarters so they can try and play a little bit more expansive. But the Selkirk players look like they've turned over that ball as Clark rushes in. Now looks to kick downfield, but it has been charged down there. Is it going to be put to ball? Wilson tries to make a foot race. Has he got the stretch out there on Coburn? I think he has. He's got the legs on Sam Coburn. The ball's down. Opportunistic score from Kelso again. So Mark Wilson just lurking round the fringes of the ruck. Manages to charge down the ball, but manages to find some purchase on the ground to beat Sam Coburn to the bounce and get the ball down. And Kelso, just as Selkirk bring it all square, nudge themselves back in front.
Yeah, it's been all Selkirk in this second half, but they're undone by another opportunistic effort from Kelso, and that will steady their ship because they were under the cosh a wee bit.
The AR's keeping a keen eye on that one, but it does split the kindling. But it is going to be Andy Tate to get play back underway as the front rows come together. And it's a little bit more tentative from both teams as they look to try and get a bit of continuity in this game. And Bruce McNeil yet again from the base of the scrum trundles it up. Tate finds Cowans. Cowans bouncing on the ball as he hits the turf. And it's now looking to come back on the Selkirk side as they get mitts in there, but the referee, he did shout no hands to the white team, signalling to Selkirk. It looks like there's been an injury as well. I think that perhaps is Archie Cowans on the ground, who's looks like he's taken a sore one. So Archie Cowans' game is come to a premature end. He's had a good performance. He got the opening try in this game, but he's just been carted off down the tunnel. We hope that that injury is not as serious as it looks, and he makes a speedy recovery. Good connection there from Patterson. Going to be Dryden to throw in to the line out, and it's successful there. It looked like it wasn't going to be the prettiest of lineouts, but it's been choked to life here by Selkirk as they all pile in and try and get some warmth, I think, in these difficult conditions. Robert Cook losing a boot as well in proceedings.
And he's had to put the foot on, he's had to put the stocking soles on the wet ground as well.
Good luck finding that boot, but it has been brought into touch. The referee signalling that it's going to be a put in to the scrum. A little bit of afters there as well. Bruce Riddle and Bruce McNeil are the two players who have they've been at it hammer and tong all evening. They set the tone with Bruce Riddle's charge right into the shoulder of Bruce McNeil earlier on. They've been met in the scrum as well. And is there a backstory to this, Kelly?
If it is, I don't know about it.
I think you'll hear about it this evening.
No, to be honest, it's good to see, the intensity and things like that. And to be fair to Sean, I wouldn't put myself in between the two Bruces. So he done better than I did. So
definitely, the referee just signalling that there is going to be a penalty there to Selkirk for the push on Bruce Riddle.
Yeah, it was actually Keith Melbourne with the initial push, and he kind of skulked off into the shadows and left Bruce McNeil to fight his battles. But that's always a role that Bruce McNeil is going to be more than happy to take up.
I think he relishes that, and it's almost an excellent kick there, but I think he's just tried to bite off a little bit more than he can chew. Callum Anderson there as he tries to squeeze every last millimetre out of this pitch, and it's just went the other side of the flag, and that's an unforced error there from the fly half. He's a very able football player as well, I think, which shows the kind of accuracy with his boot. Maybe just going awry on that occasion, but the put into the scrum again is in the clutches of Bruce McNeil as he palms off Robert Cook. He has a second bite at him and brings him down the second time of asking. And now Tate finds Melbourne. He's got the big shoulder into Cook, who's looking to put himself about for the home side in defence. And now Hasty looking to go against the grain. He's found Penman, and Penman looking to try and get some leverage on the ground, but he's not been able to be protected there from Ethan McVicker. He looked to try and charge himself into the ruck to clear out the jackal there from Kelso, but they were not to be moved. And you can see when you've got a flyer like Penman who likes to kind of dance with his feet, in these conditions it's a bogey, you're not doing it.
Yeah, that's right. And that all stemmed from the pick up and go from the base of the scrum from that man Bruce McNeil. He goes off the right hand side of that scrum, and you know he's going to do it, but knowing he's going to do it's one thing, stopping him doing it is quite another. And again, another head of steam and a big carry from him.
It's in the hands of McNeil now as he clutches. He's not really had a lot of opportunity with the ball in hand. A very evasive runner. He's met with a lot of pressure on that occasion as McVickers is bundled away at the ruck, and McDougall acting as auxiliary scrum half yet again, and Cook takes the ball into contact. He's been wrapped up there by Billy McNeil, hoists him as high as he can, but Cook does well to fight to the ground as McVicker finds Riddle, and it looked like it was Greg Sesford just sneaking offside, and the referee noticing that and telling Selkirk they've got a free ball to play with here. A little chip and go here for Anderson. Can he get put to ball? The boot is there, the ball is there. He manages to chip over the fullback, but he's taken out in the act of trying to get the ball over. You see his dad David Anderson just raising from his seat in front of us as well. I think more for a welfare issue, because it was a great run there, great eyes up rugby there from Callum Anderson. Couldn't get the bounce of the ball, support there not quick enough for Selkirk, and it's came back on a Kelso side. Kelso have to now weather the storm. They'll be hoping that Selkirk cannot encroach this line and get a try to make it a grandstand finish here at Philiphaugh. About 8 minutes or so left to go here. Andy Tate kicking downfield. He's going to find touch successfully out there, but it shows when you've got the advantage what you can do, and players like Callum Anderson come to the fore here as Selkirk empty the bench.
Yeah, it was sort of first venture into the Kelso 22 for a while for Selkirk. It was good. Yeah, it was good play from Anderson, and I think the Kelso defender was committed there in the contact in the 22. But again, Andy Tate has been to the fore in this game. Really, he's done really well to clear his lines there.
Turnbull off, McClyman off, and Riddle off. So the players that have left the field to play. Thompson, McKissick, Leach, Legg and Cassidy look like the players that have entered the fray. And clean line out there, and it has came back on a Kelso side, and that's a big fend there as well on McVicker from McNeil, and it was a charge and run there. No advantage played there as Andy Tate looked to try and get the ball wide. And Too Good, I think that was, running round the side of the ruck, just got on the road between the scrum half and the player he wanted to receive the ball.
You know, the time is on their side, the scoreline's on their side. They'll be happy enough if it finishes with 10 minutes worth of scrums and pick and goes, because it's them in the ascendancy, and as it stands at the moment it's them that's heading at the Border League final.
You can see Thompson packing down there as a replacement for Riddle, and also Cassidy joining the second row.
Word for Riddle, that's a big, 70 minutes is a big old shift for a proper night like this. He's went well, he's been abrasive.
I've been impressed with him this season, yeah, and I think it is a big shift to play 70 minutes, so well done to him. And it's now Thompson's chance to try and put his hand up and put a bit of pressure on the jersey for next year. As McNeil, again, just reverting back to type and just charging the ball from the scrum, but they just cannot stop him at source. He manages just to get ahead of steam, and another player getting ahead of steam is Big Melbourne. Big knees high, just kneeing or elbowing any player out of the way as Tate tries to put boot to ball, and it's not going to go the distance that he liked, and it's been palmed back. A bit of pressure here from Cook as he read that. He read that well.
No, it's not.
The Cook putting a bit of pressure on the ball, and McNeil now just picking and going round the fringes as Kelso perhaps look to try and eat down the time and the clock here and try and manage this game a little bit better. But the penalty is going to come back on a Selkirk side, off the feet at the ruck. A throw in for Bet. He's not able to find his target there, but is it going to be a fortunate bounce for Selkirk? Can they put a bit of pressure on here? The referee does have his arm outstretched as an advantage for Selkirk, and it is going to be a put into the scrum to Selkirk. Penman does eventually succumb to his injury, and Clark is going to come back onto the field of play as he trudges on past Penman, who's now been withdrawn.
Never a night you fancy coming back on.
Nah, not for me. I'd be too I'd probably be in the showers by now. I'd be down the tunnel. It'll be interesting to see where Clark slots in it. Is he going to go into fly half? His leg puts the ball into the scrum. It's getting pushed back from Kelso, but McDougall does well to sweep that up at the base of the scrum. So the attacking opportunity is still here. His leg, he passes to Bet. He's set the platform there for Selkirk as they look to try and stretch the play. It just went through the hands there of McVicker. Perhaps not got the height in him to grab that rise and pass. His leg again slows play down. It's now into the hands of Shushfagjak. Leg now still on the ball. It came back on from a knock on. It looks like Kelso are going to sweep up this ball, and it's an ugly contest there on the floor when the ball gets loose, but Kelso make amends. Melbourne now giving the ball to Hasty just nudging the ball downfield. Looking to test Coburn. Can Coburn sweep this ball up? Goes round Melbourne. He's been met there and look to try and kick downfield, but it looks like Clark may find that. He nudges the ball downfield himself, and Bruce McNeil, that's downfield. That's experience from Bruce McNeil, because he's just pumped that downfield out in the touch and he's down the clock.
As the ball came to him, you could see exactly what he was going to do there. He was going to hoof it, and he's got a cultured right boot. He's made a decent fist of it.
He's got a curdled right boot, probably. I don't know if it's cultured. It was an ugly kick. It came off probably how he saw it in his head. And it's an ugly line out yet again, but Cook makes a good fist of that. It's an early lift there from Kelso. There's going to be a free kick there to Selkirk. What can Selkirk do about that? They're going to have to go from deep through Cook as they tap the ball. I don't think they're 10 metres, and the ball's through the hands from Bet. Bet finds Clark on the wing. Looks to try and dummy his way and filter it back in field. He'll rise from this contact with a smile on his face because he's a jovial character, but he was second best in that collision there. A little bit of afters there as well. Kevin Dryden never wanted to go back and coming forward.
Calm down. Have you got anything there apart from messing about? Guys, you want to enter the free kick. It's a free kick.
Free kick to Selkirk. The afters, which were almost going to boil over there, it came to nothing. They've been simmered out. Well dealt with there by the referee Sean Niven. who I think in a challenging game he's been pretty good.
He's done a really, really good game today. It was always going to be challenging, but he's actually managed it very well.
That's been left to bounce there. It's been put into the sky and it's been charged down by Selkirk. Can it come back on a Selkirk side? It's bouncing about there in the 22, but Melbourne is the gazelle who manages to get the ball. He throws the dummy pretty early and trips himself up in the process. Maybe not able to do two things at once, but Tate does well to try and pick out a Kelso player. Great crossfield kick. It's went into the hands of Patterson, but it just squirms out of his grasp when he had open prairie. He could have perhaps got the try there and put this game to bed. Great awareness there from Murray Hastie to find the player over on the far side. Andy Tate just ushering a little bit of encouragement to the pack to get the nudge on as Ryan Legg puts the ball into the line out. It bobbled on the turf there as it went into the scrum, but it came back on a Selkirk side and he's got a little fumble at the back there. And I think that is going to be full time. It is Kelso in the final at the Border League, and they've been made to work very, very hard. They had a slender 3-point advantage at half time, but they managed to stretch that in the second half, and they managed to escape from Philiphaugh with a 20-10 victory. They're in their first Border League final since 2009 and get a little bit of revenge because it was Selkirk who beat them on that occasion, and the 5-time winners of the Border League get a chance to make it 6 against the most decorated team in Border League history in Hawick, who have got a massive 49 titles underneath their belt. They will play in the Border League final. Let's not sprinkle glitter on it. It's been an attritional game, it's been littered with errors, but it does show that there's still an appetite for the Border League, because you can see how much it means to these Kelso teams. They've got silverware to play for.
That's right, they have indeed, and all credit to Kelso. As we said before, they look like a team whereby the Border League has meant something to them this season, and yeah, they are going to be deserved finalists against the much decorated Hawick outfit. But fair play to Selkirk as well. They've came out on a filthy dirty night, nothing to play for whatsoever, and they've made more than a fist of it.
It is Selkirk 10, Kelso 20, and Kelso are in the Border League final.
These border derbies are something I think we need to talk up, especially in the borders, and they're definitely good to be involved in.
That's your last 15s game. Are you going to, as a club, focus now heavily on the 7s and build for next season?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously we've kind of, like you say, we have been disrupted throughout the entire 15 season, but that's not to use that as an excuse. We just need to, probably put the 15s to bed for now, and then focus on the 7s, try and get a bit of a good feeling back in the squad after what's been a really tough year.
Yeah, and will we see you pull the boots on again next season in the 15s?
Unfortunately no, that's my last game for Selkirk there tonight, so I've just got a lot of other things going on in the background work wise, and I've been here 11-12 seasons now, and I've been at the club since I was probably 5-year-old, so it's hard for me to walk away, but I feel that the time's right, and I've just said to the boys there at the end, there's opportunities there next year for new leaders and players to come in, so I wish them all the best.
Well, congratulations, I have to say. You've been an absolute warrior for Selkirk over the years, and all the very best going forward.
Right, thank you very much.
This year especially, we've tried to mix up our game, play a bit of rugby, and it didn't change tonight. We knew we were coming here for a tough battle against a good Selkirk side. At the end of the day, they're in the Premiership, the league above us, and a Border derby. We're comfortable in the league, we're not getting promoted, we're not getting relegated, so as you say, we're in a competition, cup competition, the Border League, it's all to play for.
Yeah, and you've now beat Selkirk, you've beat Gala, you've beat Melrose this season, and Hawick in the final of the Border League.
Yeah, it's just another step on the journey we're on. We're not getting ahead of ourselves, we've got a long way to go to reach the levels that we want to, but if we keep putting the hard work in, who knows, it's a final, anything can happen.